Once again called to order for our school board meeting on February 5th. It's 5:35. And first we have public input, one of two. I will read the public input procedure. We'll take public comment tonight from our virtual audience. If you wish to speak during the public comment sessions, we will allow in-person guests to speak for 3 minutes first. Once we go through all the in-person guests, we will open it up for virtual speakers on Zoom. In order to speak, please do the following. Raise your virtual hand, enter your full name and your avatar profile. When speaking, turn on your camera and say your full name and town of residence. When these are complete, you will also have 3 minutes to speak. Not seeing anybody live, Mr. Chamberlain, do we have anybody online that would like to speak?
I think so. Check. No, we're good.
Okay, our next item for tonight's meeting is the adoption acceptance of the consent agenda, the draft minutes from January 15th, 2025, the public hearing and board meeting. Do we have any comments or questions regarding the draft minutes from fellow board members? Seeing none, I'll take a motion to accept the consent agenda. Motion by Ms. Hinckley, second by Mr. Stokinger. All those in favor?
Aye.
Passes 5-0. Thank you.
Zoom just disconnected.
For discussion is matter of personnel. And for that, I will go to Mr. Mike Berry.
Mic on?
Yeah, thanks, Pete. Appreciate it. As you guys can see in the board packet, in Assembly, we have a resignation of Carol Hoffensberger. She sent a notice of retirement. Accepting this letter allows the hiring process to begin. Due to her length of service, she's not eligible for any post-employment benefits. We appreciate Carol's service to MV. And I was hoping to get a motion to approve this retirement with regret and appreciation.
Motion by Mr. Torres, second by Jess Hinckley. All those in favor of accepting this resignation? Passes 5-0, Mr. Berry.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Next up is a quick summary of our policy. Not sure whether we need to accept these tonight or.
Yeah, that would be great this evening. These are policies that were first presented at the December 19th
Okay.
board meeting, and each board since has accepted these, made a motion to accept these. There's a graphic organizer in there outlining the work done by the policy committee. I appreciate the policy committee's work to get updated Title IX policies in place. And by approving these, this puts all three districts in the same spot. I did need people to know that we had another Title IX training on January 31st, and there will be amended changes to Title IX, but we're going to work off of these policies, and we'll bring that back to the board at a later date. But hoping we can get a motion to accept these, and Jess can walk you through if there's any specific questions that you have her as she represents with Leaf on the policy committee.
Any insights or additions you want to present, Leaf or Jess, regarding the policies?
Not necessarily, unless anyone has any specific questions. I mean, all of these policies that you'll see listed in the beginning section of this organizer are all required by RSA. So we just sort of went through and made sure that all of our policies that we have already are in compliance with these new requirements. You'll also see that there were a couple of policies that are recommended by the NHSBA that we as a policy committee decided not to adopt. given that most of these particular policies are covered by RSAs in our state or federally. So that's kind of what you'll see here down in the bottom of the organizer.
Do you have any input or comments, Mr. Amber?
Yeah, I think, well, like Mike said, yeah, Title IX is probably gonna change again, but, I think it makes sense to go ahead and accept these. 'Cause this is kind of a new structure for all these non-discriminatory policies. The New Hampshire School Board Association came up with, so they're gonna maintain that structure and then just update it again whenever the new updates come out, so.
We need to have these in place for the SAU as guidance. So it's, even if these are going to be changing, which they will be, we need to have them in place for the SAU and administration.
Okay, I would like to propose that we accept the policies as written.
All those in favor of accepting the policies as presented tonight? Pass 5-0. Thanks to Mr. Amber and Ms. Hinckley for their work on the policy committee. And we'll wait for updates on the Title IX.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Next up, we're at public input number 2 of 2. Nobody in our live audience, Mr. Chamberlain, anybody on Zoom? And nobody is on Zoom. And seeing no other agenda items for tonight's short meeting, I will take a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Stokinger. All those in favor of adjourning? Passes 5-0. Thank you, folks.
Thank you all.
All right, thanks everyone for being here. My name is Miriam Ball. I'm standing in for Christy West, who is usually the moderator, and she is unable to be here tonight, so I'm filling in. I live on 3 Shawn Drive, so I am a Mont Vernon resident. Tonight, we are going to decide the wording, including dollar amounts where appropriate, of the articles on which registered voters will have a chance to vote on March 11th. As voters, under the SB2 rules, you can do 2 things. You can first explain, discuss, and debate each warrant article. And you can either retain the original wording or you can offer an amendment. Sure. Is this any better? Okay, great. Thank you. All right. I now recognize Mr. Mike Berry, Superintendent of SAU 39.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for getting here. We're fortunate to be able to come together and conduct our deliberative session. This evening, I'd like to introduce the SAU staff working with us tonight and appreciate them. We have Brian Miller, our Director of IT. He's here, making sure we have all our technical needs met, and it's live. To my right, we have Mr. Stephen Chamberlain, Assistant Superintendent. To his right, we have Miss Amy Facey, our Business Administrator. This is kind of like her big week. This is where it all comes out, so she's happy to be here. And then to her right, we have Mr. Tom Lecklider, Principal of Mount Vernon Elementary School. I'd like to turn it over to Pete so he can introduce the board.
Good evening. Thank you. Would like to introduce co-chair Jess Hinckley, Leaf Amber, George Torres, and Andrew Stokinger. And I personally would like to thank everybody for coming and also thank the SAU staff, especially Amy, for all the hard work. There's a lot of 11th hour changes that get updated constantly. She's worked incredibly hard, and I think we've delivered a nice budget for you folks. Also would like to thank our 3 members of the budget committee. Mr. Berry? Yeah.
So this is our third deliberative session for SU 39, and some of you I recognize from previous evenings this week, so I appreciate you being with us as we conduct the deliberatives this week. And it's important that as the superintendent, I have the opportunity to address the community of Mont Vernon, because there's a lot of good things that happen. There's a lot of good things that happen in this school. There's a lot of hardworking people to my right to ensure that the school is in a place to do all the good work. And we're very lucky. I truly believe that. I tell people, I was just telling the story, I grew up in Townsend, Massachusetts. And when I was looking to relocate home after living away and raising children away, I was looking for a community to work. And I can tell people, I never imagined being able to first be the principal of Souhegan High School. It was a tremendous honor and privilege. And I told people, like, I worked 20 years to be able to be the principal of Souhegan High School. And then the opportunity presented itself to move into the role of superintendent for SAU 39 and work with the 3 districts. And I, again, never imagined that I would be in that position to be in such a role. I can tell you this, it's incredibly challenging. My learning curve is straight up. I ask a lot of questions. I make a lot of mistakes, like little ones behind the scenes, nothing egregious yet. I'm going to try to keep it that way. But really, it's a real privilege to be the superintendent of schools of Amherst and Mount Vernon. I have an opportunity to empower students, staff, families, and the community. In my 18 months as superintendent, I've been impressed by the commitment of school board members, administrators, teachers, staff, students, families, and community members to fulfill the promise of public education. I'm excited to unveil the latest iteration of the framework, entitled The Framework for Success, designed to drive our educational experiences and academic achievements to new heights. This document and the SAU 39 data dashboard serve as the North Star guiding our high leverage work. The framework guides our vision. It challenges and informs each principal and school as they set goals and create actionable steps in collaboration with our diligent school boards. The leadership of SAU 39 is dedicated to achieving consistency, stability, and excellence across all schools in alignment with the framework. And the conversations that we have, and we just had a series of meetings with Principal Lecklider today, and the standard is high. And they are intense conversations. They're very intentional and thoughtful about how we're going to make the educational experience the best that we can make it. And I think we can meet those expectations and meet that standard. As superintendent, I'm committed to all stakeholder groups, including the taxpayers. I take responsibility for maximizing every dollar in our budgets. I believe it is crucial to be intentional in budgeting, and I understand and appreciate this community's expectation of transparency. And since becoming superintendent, I've learned a lot about the process here, and I appreciate the partnership that I have as superintendent with the board and the community members as we design, a budget that ultimately gets presented to the voters. I'm very proud of that. In 39, our efforts to engage, challenge, and support all learners are real. We are a strong and capable SAU with the resources to fulfill the promise of public education. We are on a journey of continual improvement as our students deserve to be in schools that value best practices. This pressing need for continuous improvement is the driving force behind our framework. I want to showcase and recognize the commendable work underway in this school. The work continues here, and it's a change of habits for some and a change of practice for some, and that's difficult when you ask people who are good at their jobs to reflect and do their jobs a little bit differently. But because of that work, we've made some real gains over the last few years here. Fourth grade math had the greatest percentage of students meeting or exceeding growth in 3 years. At our school, we are approaching 80% in literacy and math and have had the highest proficiency rates we've had in this past year that we've had in the past 3 years. I hope the community joins me in being appreciative and proud of the students, staff, and leadership at the Mont Vernon Village School. I am grateful for the dedication to continual improvement here. Please know we are actively identifying ways to streamline our focus, eliminate distractions that hinder learning, and diminish our students' educational experiences. But when you have a really good school, it gets really kind of finite and refined on how to do that. And it becomes an intense process. So as a member of 39, achieving a balance between consistency and autonomy between schools and districts is essential. It allows for solid implementations and unique solutions tailored to our different educational environments while creating effective transitions from this district to Amherst district. This budget that you will see tonight maintains the current resources, allowing building administrators throughout the districts to narrow their focus, spending time on high leverage strategies, and working really hard to maintain our teacher effectiveness work. I am excited and optimistic about the journey we are on and the future of SAU 39. We have a community and a school and a board that is devoted and expects excellence. Excellence includes high academic achievement and support for the whole child. It's difficult and challenging. Fulfilling that vision for public education is what fuels me each and every day. I'm incredibly proud to work with people at this table and the people in this room. I appreciate you being here. Your involvement in the process is absolutely essential, and I appreciate the partnership. Thank you for your time.
All right, if everyone can please stand so we can say the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance
I pledge allegiance
of the United States of America
and
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay. So the rules of procedure that we are going to follow today are in your packet. They're also up on the screen here. I'm not going to go through and read each one. But if there are any problems or if I mess up, please correct me. So if we can go on to Article 1, the election of officers. So as I mentioned earlier, you'll have the opportunity to select or to elect school district offices on March 11th at town voting day. These offices will be on the ballot. School board members for 3 years each, and school district moderator, clerk, and treasurer each for 1 year. I now recognize Mr. Peter Eckhoff, Chair of the Mont Vernon Village School Board.
Thank you. Our next, do we need to vote on that Article 1 or are we good?
I don't think we vote on
Oh,
that one because
okay.
it's,
So Article 2 is our operating budget. Article 2, shall the Mount Vernon School District raise and appropriate as an operating budget, not including appropriations by special warrant articles and other appropriations voted separately, The amount set forth on the budget posted with the warrant or as amended by vote for the first session for the purpose set forth therein totaling $6,734,473. Should this article be defeated, the default budget shall be $6,566,770, which is the same as last year, with certain adjustments required by previous action of the Mount Vernon School District or by law. Or the governing body may hold one special meeting in accordance with RSA 40:13, 10, and 16 to take up the issue of a revised operating budget only. A majority vote required. This was recommended by the Mount Vernon School Board 4-0. I will make note that it's only 4-0 because I was unable to be at the meeting where all of the articles for tonight were voted on. I would have voted yes on every single article. Just want to put that out to the general public, and that's why you see 4-0. Also recommended by the Mount Vernon Advisory Budget Committee by a vote of 3-0. The estimated tax impact of passing this article is 6 cents per thousand. The estimated tax impact of not passing this article is minus 24 cents per thousand. Please note that the warrant Article 2, the budget, does not include the appropriations proposed in any other warrant articles. So Article 2, the operating budget review. And this is the story regarding personnel. Wages and benefits. As everybody knows, benefits continues to be a challenge, not just for school districts, but for businesses and everyone. So the health and dental insurance for an employer contribution rate increase is 12.4% to 16.8% for health insurance. And that depends on whatever plan the employee is on. So that's why there's a variance there between the two. Also, there's a 5% increase in dental insurance. The New Hampshire retirement employer contribution rate for full year 25-26 is actually a decrease. For teachers, it's 19.24%, which is reduced by 0.41%. For non-teachers, the rate is 12.75%. That's a reduction of 0.78%. We do have one post-employment benefit payout, a retirement. We have an increase in facilities technician from 0.75 to 1.0 or full-time, a reduction of one paraprofessional, and the contract for our teachers and the MVEA contract will expire on June 30th of this year. The story behind the budget for non-personnel. We're investing in literacy. That would include program materials, and also we need to replace some library furniture, which has, as they say, reached their end-of-life use. So we want to replace some library furniture. Investment in technology, and we'll have some more details on that a little bit later in the presentation, but student and staff device replacements for investment in technology. Facilities. Utilities will have cost increases, as we all see every month in our bills at our houses. Service contracts are also increasing, and also there are, yearly equipment replacement and repairs. There is a net reduction in student services costs based on student need. That would include special education transportation and also related service costs. Risk management investment in the reserve funds, and you'll see these later on. Facilities, special education, health and dental insurance, technology, post-employment benefits, retirement. So the budget comparison is as follows. Our full year 26 default budget versus the full year 25 operating budget is actually a decrease of $72,336 or 1.1%. Our proposed full year 26 budget versus that same full year 26 default is an increase of $167,703 or an increase of 2.5%. Our full year 26 proposed budget versus a current full year 25 operating budget is an increase of 95,367, an increase of 1.4%. And again, a reminder that this excludes the special warrant articles. And a lot of the numbers I'm reading to you right now, you'll see further on other slides. So one of the factors that we use to determine where we're headed with buildings or class sizes, class counts, equipment, technology, you name it, is the enrollment projections that were given by a company that's called the NESDEC. This outfit provides our district, not only Vernon, but also Amherst and the rest of the district, with enrollment projections going out as far as 10 years. And what we have found is that those numbers are very, very accurate. And you'll see in an upcoming slide just how close they get it. But they're projecting for us to start to see a pretty significant uptick in student headcount here in Mount Vernon in full year 27. And that increase will continue all the way to full year 2031. Hence the initiative last year to do the building study and determine what our needs could be, what the cost would be, and the related expenses. Then you'll see after that in full year 32, a small decline in 32, 33, bigger decline in 34, and then an uptick in 35. But this is a really important tool that we use to get an idea of where we're headed for headcount in this building. And right now, if Mr. Chamberlain or Mr. Berry want to speak to that NESDEC outfit at all, I'd welcome that, but you good? Okay. So for staffing levels, you'll see that we have been pretty consistent. And again, this is where those projections come into play. So for full year 25, and I'm not going to read every grade, but for full year 25, the NESDEC projected students for kindergarten for here was 32. Our actual numbers this year, as of October 1st, are 38. So you might say, well, that's a gap of 6, and that's a lot. Well, if you look down at the bottom, you'll see that the total projection for the building that they have for 2025 was 238. Our actuals, as of October 1st, is 240. So they're within two kids in this building projecting out. So we're pretty confident in their numbers. You can see that our teachers remain the same at 2 per class. You see in the ratio column how many students per teacher. And then in full year 26, you'll see the projected. So they're projecting us to be at 246, which would be an increase of 6. And our per student average would be 17.6, using the same 2 teachers per classroom. This next slide gives you a head count broken down by the different categories within the building. You can see that our certified staffing has remained consistent, and through our proposal for next year for full year 26 to remain at the same 25.8. There are no changes in the certified staffing proposed this year, and we are staying with the current model for specials that was put in place 2 years ago. So non-certified staffing, we do have that one adjustment that we referenced earlier on. You can see that our total non-certified staffing will be at proposed 10.5 or 10.5. And that includes moving one of our custodial positions from a 0.75 to a full-time 1.0. So you can see that even with that, we reduced the paraprofessional that we mentioned earlier from 5 down to 4. The custodial increases by 0.2. Net, we have projected and proposed non-certified staffing of 10.5 people. Budget by category, and again, I won't read every number, every line. I will give you the percent change and also the dollar change for our proposed budget. So for technology, we are proposing a change of $33,753, a change of 37%. Our facilities, increase of 50,524. That's a 15% increase. Administration, 71,359, or an 8.3 increase. Food service, 3,506, for an increase of 2.6. Curriculum, 22,983 for 0.6. Student services, a decrease, as we referenced earlier, down 27,322 for a decrease of 2.5. Transportation, down 59,436, a decrease of 19%. And again, you'll see cumed up, there's that number again, increase of 95,367, or an increase of 1.4%. Now the fun begins. Default calculation. Full year adopted budget is 6,000, we wish, 6,759,106. You remove the special warrant articles, 120,000, gets you to 6,639,106. The SAU 39 apportionment is 35,912. Food services is a minus 2,960. Tuition to Amherst would be a reduction of $18,006. Salaries, benefits, contractual would be down $22,616. Student services, including our special ed transportation, again, would be down $64,666. And the subtotal for all of those changes to the default would be $72,336, or down 1.1%. So the default calculation comes in at $6,566,770. If the budget does not pass and we do go to default, the proposed items that may be at risk are as follows. Salary and benefit adjustments for non-union personnel, $74,086. Technology for student and staff devices, $33,732. Curriculum, which includes literacy program, library furniture, and interactive displays, $31,862. Facilities, which would include the utility increases, maintenance and repairs, $24,070. A food service transfer, $3,000, and miscellaneous, $953. So the subtotal changes default to propose would be $167,703, a change of 2.5%. Next up is a pie chart. Who doesn't love a pie chart, right? But again, this breaks it out by category, and it pretty much tells the story in a pie chart for you. Salaries and benefits, always going to be the biggest piece of the pie, 53.4%, followed by tuition to Amherst School District at 22.7%. And I'll just leave that slide up there for a second for you folks to take a look at. Next up is our revenue review. Our total appropriation comparison, our operating budget for full year 26 proposed $6,734,473. And again, there's that number again, difference of 95,367. The warrant article, which was a taxation of last year of 30,000, that is not in the budget. We did increase our warrant articles by $20,000 up to 110. So the total appropriation for full year 26 is $6,844,473. It's a difference of $85,367. And I am going to read Amy's notes to you. The first step in looking at the revenue and tax impact is looking at the difference in the total appropriation from full year 25 to 26. The difference in the operating budgets from 25 to 26, again, $95,367. There were 4 articles last year that passed. One was funded by that new taxation, which was the contingency fund, and 3 articles that were funded from the unassigned fund balance. They totaled $90,000. For 2026, we have proposed 5 warrant articles to be funded from the unassigned fund balance for $110,000. So that, again, the total difference is $85,367. The next step is to review the anticipated income, food service. Food service and grants are separate from the general fund, and the revenue just equals the projected expense. Other federal, state, local include Medicaid revenue, special ed aid, interest income, tuition, and any local grants like the Dalen Library grant would be included here. So for full year 26, food service projected at 125,685. The grants same 95,515. Other federal and state and local, an increase to 83,431. As mentioned, voted from the fund balance for warrant articles, we are proposing 110,000. Fund balance to offset the tax rate, 90,000. So the subtotal for all revenues, $504,631. The projected tax rate impact for the budget. So to determine the tax rate impact, we compare the total appropriation amounts and reduce that by the revenue as calculated in the previous slide. And then reduce that by the state adequacy funding aid and the statewide property tax. The result is an increased tax effort of $31,159 or 6 cents per thousand. Now, everybody realizes that there was a recent revaluation of our property here in the town of Mount Vernon. As you saw in your tax bills, it resulted in a significant increase, which means that's going to drive the tax rate down and therefore the impact is lower. However, all of the individual property values increased, as well as affecting the tax amount to be paid by property owners. So the 6 cents looks great, but the net is still going to be the same. But because of the revaluation, the tax rate of 6 cents per 1,000 is substantially lower than it's been in previous years. And the revaluation, as everybody knows, was done in early December. So that's a recap of all the budgeting and expenses and tax rate and impacts, et cetera. At this time, I'd like to introduce again and welcome input from our Budget Committee members, Francine Aftantis, did I get that right? Close enough? Larry Breckenridge, and also Eric Willis. So first off, Eric, do you want to speak first? Okay, Eric Willis of our Budget Committee.
Hey, everyone. Can you hear me all right? My name is Eric Willis, and I'm the chair of the Mont Vernon School Board Budget Committee this year. I just wanted to take a moment and explain what our committee does and doesn't do, and my own personal motivation for being a part of it. You know, as everyone in this room knows, Mont Vernon is a special place. We are a relatively small place in size and population. But we're special because we're a town with a small budget that has a very large impact. Our school here has been named one of the best in the state for several years in a row now. And we here in town deserve not one iota less than that, in my opinion. But what else do we deserve? And that is transparency. And so for that reason, the Mont Vernon School Budget Committee exists. We're an all-volunteer cast of 3, including myself, our secretary Francine, and our vice chair Larry. If you don't know about us, our job is simple. We're a sampling of the voting public here in town, and we have the pleasure of reviewing every line item and warrant article in the school budget. The 3 of us each take portions of the budget and analyze them. We voice any concerns by bringing up any items we think shouldn't be there or be changed, and make our opinions known to the school board and the admin staff. Our group meets several times during that process. We keep an eye towards the future while focusing on the present, in order to evaluate and eventually agree upon the budget and determine if we believe any part of it is wasteful, so that the district in the end spends your and our money wisely. We're doing this for many reasons, some personal, some not, but one of the main reasons we all do it is because we're taxpayers just like you. Now, that being said, it should be noted that what we do not do is approve the budget as a whole or any individual parts of it, nor do we add or subtract any lines to it. But we do recommend it on behalf of all of you as a small, but volunteer sampling of the voting public. One of the sections I've reviewed the past 2 years on this committee has been the special education section. My main motivation for being on this committee is that I have 2 children at home with special needs. One who still attends the village school in the 6th grade, and one who spent 2 years here and is now in the 7th grade over at AMS. We moved to Mont Vernon almost 3 years ago from a nearby town. I won't say which one. And I can tell you that the difference between our school and theirs is night and day when it comes to special needs students. We do things right here. We put the students first, and we've most certainly earned our spot near the top of the best schools in the state list. On a personal level, my kids' education did a complete 180-degree turn at the village school, for which I'll be forever grateful. And I'd like to pay it forward by making sure it stays this way for all current and future students in similar situations here. So to wrap up, it's our belief as a committee that we've put forth the best and most responsible balance between minimizing the district's tax impact while maintaining the high standards we deserve. And so as a group, we unanimously recommend approval of the budget as a whole, and we unanimously approve all of the warrant articles contained in it. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Pete, Mike, and Eric for your comments and for going through the warrant article. Is there additional discussion for warrant article number 2? Yes.
My name is Ann Dodd. I live at 36 Mason Road, and I'd like you to put up Article 2 again, please. I think there's been a mistake at the last. There we go. The tax impact of passing this article should be the whole budget amount, correct?
It's the change from the voted budget to the proposed budget.
So where do we see the proposed budget number,
We can go to that slide.
the total number?
Oh, the proposed budget number? It's in the warrant article.
Okay, so it looks to me like we're voting to vote only the difference, not the whole budget.
No, the vote is to raise and appropriate the funds for the budget. The estimated tax impact is just an estimate of the change from the current year budget to the proposed budget.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm a neighbor, Beach Hill Road. Could we go back to the total appropriation operating budget that you just, I didn't realize it had numbers until, okay, one more. Wait a minute. It's before page 27. Okay, well, this one will do. This will do fine. So my first question is the operating budget for fiscal year 26. Because we're at the end of our teacher's contract what salary does that number include?
It's the status quo. So it
So
does
the
not,
same as 25.
yes,
So no raises, no,
that's
just
correct.
the same.
That's in the separate warrant article that you'll see
Okay.
next.
So when I first looked at this slide and I said, wow, $6 million and it only went up 95,000. And then I realized no teachers' salaries in this, no teachers' raises in salary or steps. So really, don't use these numbers as comparison. You really have to add Article 3's raises to fiscal year 26 to get the total. And what would the total be for fiscal year 26 with the first year of the teacher's contract added in?
So we're going to get there in a minute. It's about 200,000. It's about 105. We're going to get there after this article.
Well, I know, but it reflects how my thinking.
Sure.
All right. So instead of fiscal year 26 being 6,700,000, it's really 6,900,000 if you consider adding in teacher salaries for the first year.
If both paths.
Oh, of
Yeah.
course.
Right. But I also want to be clear, the only raises that can be included in a year without a contract is educational attainment. So not steps and not base. But if we've been noticed of an advanced degree or credit acquisition, that increase is in that line.
Right.
Just so you know, educational attainment, yes, steps and base, no. Just want to be clear.
No, that's all right. But just as you're thinking of it, people, it's not a $95,000 difference if you consider teachers' raises between this current fiscal year and next current fiscal year. You have to add in that 200,000.
Kim Roberts, 35 Salisbury Road. I think we go through this almost year after year. Really, if we go back to look at Article 2 and how it's printed, really the difference here is 30 cents per thousand on the tax rate. I mean, if it's voted to a default, it's a minus 24. If it's added, it's a 6 cents add. So that's really a 30 cents tax difference between them. But what,
That's if you're considering the default. So the 6 cents goes from the 25 budget to the 26 budget.
but that's
You're
what the taxpayers should be considering. If we're looking at what the default, if you're voting for it or voting against it. If you're voting for it, you're voting for a 6 cents
Sure.
increase. If you're voting
Sure.
against it, you're actually getting, it's really more of a 30 cent. And what I think I'm stumbling on is that it seems that the return to the taxpayers both years seems to be about the same, about $200,000. So where's that 24? I'm trying to grasp as to where I get to a negative 24 cents if it's the same amount and we're looking at them to be used in the other warrant articles to offset it. I mean, where do I get that minus 24? If you don't have any more to offset the taxes, $167,000 isn't getting me to minus 24, not on our tax rate. Like that's.
It's
Right, Ann, isn't that the same?
No,
I mean,
it-
almost the same that you were asking?
Can I address this here? This is how we're required to put this on the article by law. We can't try to manipulate it and put it in a different way. We always have to have it stated in this fashion. So this is, we go over it every year because there's different ways of looking at it. And that's why they set the RSA to state exactly how we have to put it on these articles.
right. The default is less than FY 25.
Yeah, the
Negative.
default budget is less than
So
last year.
the tax rate for FY 25 for the Mont Vernon Village School was $8.62. That's the tax rate for this year. the projected tax rate for FY '26 for the proposed budget is $8.68. The default projected tax rate is $8.38. So the 24 cents is $8.62 less 8.38.
But what I'm saying is your difference is only $167,703, and that's not 30 cents on our tax rate. Like that's,
But Kim, the tax rate is 8.62.
yeah,
The default tax rate is 8.38.
yeah.
That's 24 cents.
Yeah, and
that equates to the 167. You divide it by the valuation of 561, 186.56. It's just how the math works.
so just, I'm clear on that. The return to the taxpayers possible has been about the same last year and this year.
That's what we're projecting
Okay.
right now. Based on our projections,
Yeah.
we're projecting about $200,000 in fund balance, which includes both additional revenue as well as potential expenditure savings.
Was there any year-end spending by the school board last year? Up and beyond
no,
towards
there
the
was
end of
not.
the- Okay. thank
Nope.
you.
It was all returned.
Spencer Levet, 14 Dow Road. Just to clarify, you've mentioned tax rates this year, last year, projected years. Are all those based on the same valuation?
The valuation for FY '25 just changed. And we use the same valuation for FY '26. It was different in FY '24.
So all the numbers that you just cited, the $8 and change for the
Is
last
based on
year.
the new valuation.
Fine, thank you.
Yep, it's consistent between 25 and 26.
Hi, Pete King, Kendall Hill Road. Just a small clarification, Mike, when you were doing the, talking about where revenues were coming from, you mentioned some comes from the Dayland Library. And I just want to be very clear. The library is not giving any money to the school. It's coming from the Sophia Dayland Memorial Trust. And there are 4 of the trustees in this office. So it's a small amount of money every year that comes into the school for music education. And I think that's what you were referring to.
Yep, we would appreciate the $70 very much every year.
Okay, but it's not coming from the library. So I don't want to read that on Facebook that the library is sending money to
It
the
has the
school.
same name.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll take that,
Yeah.
Pete, thank you. Howard?
Howard Brown, Two Blood Road. I just want some clarification on it. I think it's 20 or 21 on the default budget. It has, I think it's 18,000 being taken up from the tuition to Amherst schools.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a contractual thing. How can we get away with taking that 18,000 out?
Yeah, it's just the projected total tuition, so it's a decrease. There was a bit of a decrease in cost per pupil,
Okay.
so it affected the projected tuition calculation.
Thank you.
Tony Emerly, Purgatory Road. Just want a clarification on FY. Is that fiscal year? You
Yes.
also said full year. So what's the difference?
No, it's just fiscal year.
And what are the dates?
It's July 1 to June 30th.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any additional discussion? Okay. Please place Article 2 on the ballot as currently worded and thus declared. All right. Do I have a motion to restrict reconsideration? Do I have a second? Do I have to vote first? Oh, sorry, my notes say vote after. All right, let's vote. All in favor, raise your cards. All right. Motion pass or article pass. Okay. Do we have a second? Okay. Any more discussion? No? All right, now we vote. Okay, now we vote with your cards. Let's do it again. Great, thank you. Passes.
Thank you. Now the motion to limit reconsideration.
Okay. Do I have a motion to restrict reconsideration? Do I have a second? All right, seconded. Passes. Now we move on. Oh, now we vote. Now we vote on the restrict reconsideration? Okay. All right, that passes. Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, now we move on to Article 3. Andrew Stokinger will go through that for us.
All right, Article 3 is from our MVEA collective bargaining agreement. Shall the Mont Vernon School District approve the cost items included in the collective bargaining agreement reached between the school board and the MVEA, the Mont Vernon Education Association, which calls for the following increases in salaries and benefits at the current staffing level over the amount paid for the prior fiscal year. And you'll see on the screen, there's the estimated increase each year. And to further raise and appropriate the sum of $104,984 for the 25-26 year. Such sum representing the additional cost attributable to the increase in salaries and benefits required by the new agreement over those that we paid at the current staffing levels, majority vote required. This was recommended by the school board 4-0. Pete also has said he would be the 5-0 on this. He and I worked together in the negotiating with the Mont Vernon Educational Association. This was also recommended by the Mont Vernon Advisory Budget Committee 3-0. The estimated tax impact of passing this article is 19 cents per thousand. So after several months of negotiations, we went back and forth quite a few times. We came to an agreement with the MVEA, and we've set this agreement for 3 years. The goals of the board and the MVEA were both accomplished here. It was really important to the board that we be able to attract and retain teachers. And for that, we really needed to shore up the side of the salary schedule for teachers that are new to the profession. We were very much losing in comparison with surrounding districts for teachers in their first couple of years of teaching. This was also a goal of the MVEA, so it worked out great for us. We don't have very many teachers at this level at the school, so it didn't have much of a tax impact for us. It was a goal of the board. We wanted to increase student instructional time. And then as part of this agreement, we got 2 additional student days. And we wanted to improve professional development. So we were able to add more days for teachers that are new to the district. And additional support for teachers who are on improvement plans, where being on an improvement plan will actually help the teacher to be able to improve without potentially affecting their salary or their merit increases each year. Or step changes each year, how that's worded. We also cleaned up a little bit with the health insurance costs so that the percentages that we pay are fixed into their current rate, current percentages per plan, instead of all driven off of the most expensive plan. And this really changes some of the variability in the health insurance costs that we're seeing. Because if the most expensive plan spikes in price, but the one all of our teachers actually use stays the same, we will continue to pay out the same. All right. So I will hand it over to a member of our advisory budget committee, Larry Breckenridge.
Hello, I'm Larry Breckenridge, 32 Spring Hill Road. I just wanted to speak briefly on this article. One of the things I did in my assignment for the budget committee was to look at the pay scales. And I just want to let the people of the town know that our teachers are not exorbitantly paid. With this agreement, we bring starting teachers up to basically around the poverty line. Now, I think it's kind of heartbreaking that our teachers who are working hard at this school are hovering around the poverty line. This is consistent with other districts. If you look at what's happening in Oklahoma, for example, you would see kind of a different story. They've got a terrible teacher shortage. And one of the main reasons is that they fail to pay their teachers. I recently spoke to a professor at a mining school. I'm in the mining industry. And he said that he cannot get students from some rural districts in the United States into his program because the schools simply don't have enough math and science education to qualify for an engineering program. So, you know, staying strong at early grades and staying strong with teachers who are excited about bringing math and science into our schools is essential to all of our future. So, you know, we recommend passing of this warrant article and just wanted to let you know it is not a big, huge pay cut for wealthy teachers. It is still keeping our teachers sadly near the poverty line.
All right, thank you. Do we have a motion? Oh, discussion. Any discussion? Motion? Motion to discuss? Motion to pass the warrant. Oh my goodness. Motion,
I just have to ask, that 19 cents per thousand, what percent raise is that in the tax rate?
Tax increase it is?
Percent, how much, what's the percentage raise in the tax rate? So if the tax rate is $2, you know, and now it's going up 19 cents, what percent is that? I'm sorry, I'm slow on math tonight.
Oh, okay. What the percentages of the total?
In other words, the town tax rate is probably going up 9%. What percent is this going to raise the school tax rate? I don't care.
Hold on.
Should be slightly more than 2%.
2%?
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you.
2.14%.
Not yet.
all right, do we have a motion to add this warrant to the ballot? Do we have a second? All right, discussion? Additional discussion? Yes. Nope. Okay, now we vote. All in favor, raise your cards. All right, motion passes. All right, motion to restrict reconsideration. Does have a second?
All right, so Article 4.
Yes, we
Oh.
have to vote on that
Oh,
motion.
sorry.
Vote on restrict reconsideration. All right, passes.
Sorry. Move ahead a couple of slides here.
Okay, all right, so Eric Willis will make a comment.
For Article 3, the Mont Vernon School Budget Committee voted 3 in favor and 0 opposed. Also for Article 2, because I didn't come up here, the Mont Vernon School Budget Committee voted 3 in favor and 0 opposed.
Okay, Article 4, Andrew?
Sure. So Article 4 is for a special meeting if the MVAA collective bargaining agreement does not pass. So Article 4 says, shall the Mont Vernon School District, if Article 3 is defeated, authorize the governing body to call one special meeting at its option to address Article 3 cost items only, majority vote required. This is recommended by the school board 4-0 and recommended by the advisory budget committee 3-0. So Article 4 allows for a special meeting should the CBA not pass. What this does is if the CBA doesn't pass, the school board can work with the MVEA to renegotiate the cost items of the contract and bring it back to the voters. If Article 4 does not pass, this option does not exist without going to Superior Court. So this doesn't make, if everyone votes against the agreement and the Article 3 doesn't pass, this doesn't, voting yes on Article 4 doesn't make it pass. It just makes us go back to the table and renegotiate without letting a year go by. It's very important to us as a school board. We would like the option to be able to renegotiate things out and not go a year without a teacher's having a contract. So this is not something normally we'd put on here, but we want to give ourselves the option for the voters to say, well, if you don't like the amount, let's go back and renegotiate things without having to throw out the whole contract. As a school board member, I would say that the other items on the contract that we have addressed are also important to us to keep. So we don't want to go back and renegotiate the contract from scratch.
Okay.
I'll hand it back to Larry. Do you want to speak again?
Larry, do you have additional?
Okay.
All right. Do I have a motion to add the ballot? Oh,
Okay, how much does
do
it
we,
cost?
do we do the? Right.
Oh,
Motion and a second and then discussion. So do I have a motion to add the, thank you. Do I have a second? All right. Discussion?
Okay.
Go ahead.
Annette in Merlika, Purgatory Road. How much does it cost to have a special meeting?
It would be the cost of employees, cost of counsel, and cost of any related expenses to it. So what's this thing cost us? Yeah, it also is advertising. We'd have to advertise, post, warn, have counsel. So whatever it calls.
I think that's a good estimate, Ms. Hayes, right in that. Yeah, yeah.
She said about 8,000.
8,000, about 8,000.
All right. Any additional discussion? All right. So we vote. Vote on the article. All in favor? Raise your cards. All right, that passes. Clerk, please add Article 4 to the ballot.
Limit.
Yeah, a motion to restrict reconsideration. Is it second? All right, all in favor, raise cards. All right, motion passes. Okay. Eric?
We're on 5 now?
For Article 4, the Mont Vernon School Budget Committee voted 3 in favor and 0 opposed.
Okay, Article 5, George Torres, the secretary.
Yes, good evening. Article 5, Property Maintenance Fund. The way this Article 5 reads is as such: shall the Mount Vernon School District raise and appropriate the sum of up to $50,000 to be added to the School Property Maintenance Expendable Trust Fund. It was previously established in March of 2007. This sum is to come from the June 30, 2025 unassigned fund balance, a surplus available for transfer on July 1st, 2025. No amount to be raised from any new taxation. A majority vote is required for this to pass. This article was recommended 4-0 by the Mount Vernon School Board. It would have been 5 if Pete was available. It was also recommended by the Mount Vernon Advisory Budget Committee, 3-0. The estimated tax impact of passing this article, because it's coming from the UFB, will be 0. If it is not passed, you would see about 9 cents per thousand on the tax rate coming back to the ratepayer. Next slide. So this slide is a breakout of the long-term capital plan or a facilities funding plan. As you see, it highlights fiscal year 2025 through 32. It projects a contribution annually of about $50,000. We try to keep at least $100,000 at a minimum in this plan for emergency. It does increase in certain years depending on what the capital or projected capital expenditures would be. For example, you would look at $50,000 contribution on top of the current $220,000 in there. That would bring you to $220,000. However, we're projecting some tree removal work on the property. Don't ask me which trees, I wouldn't know. But about $10,000 will come or is allocated for that tree removal. And then you'll see various expenditures throughout the years. The biggest piece would be fiscal year 28. We're projecting usage of about $120,000 to replace some boilers and some water pumps, as well as some tree removal work there, so amounting to about $130,000. You also see in FY 31 about $100,000 for some HVAC unit work and replacement, and then you'll see various projects throughout the facilities funding plan. We'll note, this is pending a facilities committee recommendation and review, which right now they're looking at the possibility of pre-K, 7th and 8th grade being retained here in town. And I believe that is all I have at this point.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Eric Wills, on the Advisory Budget Committee.
I checked through all the parts of the facilities budget, and if anything, I think this budget is a little too stingy. There's some pretty low numbers and things like plumbing repair and heating repair. One of the ways the school deals with it is through the acquisition of their capital fund. But this budget is really tight. In fact, I think I spent more money on plumbing maintenance.
Yeah.
So.
All right, do I have a motion to add the ballot or the article to the ballot? Second? All right, seconded, discussion?
I'm sorry, it must be too late and I'm tired. I didn't understand your last sentence about the 7th and 8th grade coming back. I didn't understand that your last sentence about what the 7th and 8th grade coming back had to do with the facilities.
Thank you. So basically, these dollars here that are being allocated don't include any consideration for the possibility. And sorry for, it's been a long day for me, so if I didn't speak clearly, I apologize. It doesn't include any possibility of keeping or adding our 7th and 8th grade classes here if this facility was expanded to keep those students in town.
All right, all those in favor of adding Article 5 as written? All right, passes. Clerk, please add the article. Motion to restrict reconsideration, seconded. Thank you. And let's vote. All those in favor? Aye. Your cards. All right, that passes. Okay, Article 6, Jessica Hinckley, Vice Chair.
All right, thank you. So Article 6, our Special Education Fund. Shall the Mont Vernon School District raise and appropriate the sum of up to $25,000 to be added to the Special Education Capital Reserve Fund previously established in March of 2016, and further to name the Mont Vernon School Board as agents to expend from said fund. This sum to come from the June 30th, 2025 unassigned fund balance surplus available for transfer on July 1st, 2025. No amount to be raised from new taxation. A majority vote will be required. This was recommended by the Mont Vernon School Board 4-0 and recommended by the Mont Vernon Advisory Budget Committee 3-0. Estimated new tax impact of passing this article is $0 per thousand. Estimated new tax impact of not passing this article is -5 cents per thousand. So the Special Education Fund was established in 2016 with a name change in 2024. The purpose of this fund is to help with unanticipated special education expenses. The current balance of this fund is $71,000. The school board's goal for the balance of this fund is $200,000. There's a wide range of costs associated with student need. Our recommended contribution request is $25,000 from our unassigned fund balance.
Eric, did you want to comment at this time? All right, motion to add Article 6 to the ballot. Second? Seconded. All right, it's open to discussion. All right, motion to restrict reconsideration. Oh, we got to vote. We got to vote on that. All those in favor? Passes. All right, motion to restrict reconsideration. Second. All right, all those in favor? That passes. And I recognize Eric Willis.
For Articles 5 and 6, the Mont Vernon School Budget Committee voted 3 in favor and 0 opposed.
All right, thank you. And I recognize Jessica Hinckley for Article 7.
So our Health and Dental Insurance Fund. Article 7, shall the Mont Vernon School District raise and appropriate the sum of up to $10,000 to be placed in the Health and Dental Insurance Expendable Trust Fund, previously established in March of 2023. This sum to come from the June 30th, 2025 unassigned fund balance available for transfer on July 1st of 2025. No amount to be raised from new taxation. Majority vote will be required. Recommended by the Mont Vernon School Board 4-0. Recommended by the Mont Vernon Advisory Budget Committee 3-0. Estimated new tax impact of passing this article is $0 per thousand. Estimated new tax impact of not passing the article is -2 cents per thousand. So the Health and Dental Insurance Fund was established in 2023 for the purpose of covering unanticipated health and dental insurance expenses if needed. The current balance of this fund is $26,000, and the goal of the school board is to be able to fund a family plan, which is a little over $34,000. The warrant article is for $10,000 to be funded from the unassigned fund balance.
All right, motion to add the ballot or add the article to the ballot. Second. Seconded. Open to discussion.
Kim Rowers, 35 Salisbury Road. So if that's your goal, then next year you'd come back and not look to fund any of this unless that's used. And where does that number come from? The 34,000, like
Sure.
what's the board's philosophy on?
So that is the cost of a family plan for one teacher or that changes their health insurance selections midway through the year on us. So this is so that we don't have to cancel or change any of our other services if one teacher decides to switch to a family plan. And no, we would not look to increase this fund beyond the funding from this year.
All right, all those in favor? All right, passes. Motion to restrict reconsideration. A second? Seconded. All right, the motion passes. And vote, or sorry, let's vote to see if it passes. All right, passes. And Eric Willis once more.
For Article 7, the Mont Vernon Budget Committee voted 3 in favor and 0 opposed.
All right, thank you. All right, Andrew Stokinger for Article 8.
So Article 8 is for a technology fund. So shall the Mont Vernon School District raise and appropriate the sum of up to $10,000 to be placed in the Technology Expendable Trust Fund previously established in March 2024. The sum to come from the June 30th, 2025 unassigned fund balance or surplus available for transfer on July 1st, 2025. No amount to be raised for new taxation, majority vote required. The school board recommended this 4-0. The estimated tax impact of passing this is $0. However, the new estimated tax impact of not passing this article is negative 2 cents per thousand. So I work as a technology professional, specifically with connecting devices in large commercial buildings. And I personally dove into what we would be using this fund for in the long term. And it's set up similar to our property maintenance fund, but specifically only targeted at technology items that are building wide. So some of the potential projects we could do are to replace the the wireless networking in this building. Or to replace the telecommunication services or network switches, et cetera. All of these are large purchases that we don't really want to include in the regular budget. They're optional whether or not we bring them in one year or another. However, as a technology professional, I can tell you that after a certain number of years, they no longer patch any vulnerabilities for security that might be in any of these networks. So after we get beyond, say, 8 or 10 years of life out of a Wi-Fi network system, it becomes a potential threat for us here. But if any of you have tried to log into the network here while you're sitting in this room, you'll notice it is a little bit slow and a little bit disconnecty. And that's really what we're going to try to address. And instead of pulling it into the budget for this year and saying, hey, we want all $25,000 right now, instead we've decided to plan ahead for it. So this is to set aside some money to be able to pay for that expense when we have collected enough. So probably replacing the wireless networks in this building with a extreme range Wi-Fi network in the next 2 to 3 years.
Okay. Is there another slide?
This slide just kind of details what we're expecting. We're asking for some money this year. The probably going to ask for an additional contribution next year, and with the expected withdrawal of purchasing extreme wireless access point upgrade.
All right, do we have a motion to add this article to the ballot? Second? Seconded, open for discussion?
Kim Rivers, 35 Salisbury Road. So I guess in this different thought processes on whether to have capital reserve funds in order to do this and implement them in long-term goals such as putting them into the maintenance fund and showing $150,000 expenses, or when we had the roof, seemed to me a viable option for not impacting the taxpayers from that much. But $10,000 at a time doesn't seem to really be impacting it on 2 cents. I mean, we're sitting back there discussing Mrs. White is wondering why I am coming up for $10,000 or 2 cents. But it's more of what could be put into the budget and stay consistent in the budget if it's $10,000 year after year after year. If you have $200,000 at the end of the year of an unreserved fund balance, it allows the board to expend $10,000 of that in order to move towards it and explain that you're not putting it in a capital reserve fund and that's what you're doing it. So I'm just up here standing saying, there's a lot of, 9, right? To come down and doing them to put in it. And if that's what the administration's thought process and the board process, and then that's fine. But I think it used to be used more for large capital items that were being done to really impact the tax rate, meaning like a roof or something such as that, as opposed to something such as that. The comment on the dental thing, I don't know about open season, but unless you were to transfer, reverting back to it, unless you were to hire a new employee, most employers only allow you to transfer once so that they couldn't come in the middle of the year unless they have a change of status, which would be, I guess, if you had a child or something such as that. So I get that, but I also think that then that's putting $30,000 in and you have that at the end in your unreserved fund balance. So I just hope the board takes that into consideration in future, because having 9 things for voters to vote on and to show, and I understand based on state RSAs that you have to show it 0 tax impact, is really somewhat misleading because it could go to offset taxes. Thank you.
All right, do we have a motion? Oh, let's vote on adding Article 8 to the ballot. All those in favor? Looks like it passes. Motion to restrict reconsideration, a second. All those in favor, restrict reconsideration. Passes. And I recognize Eric Lewis.
For Article 8, the Mont Vernon School Budget Committee voted 3 in favor and 0 opposed.
All right, recognize Pete Eckhoff for Article 9.
Thank you. Article 9, the Post-Employment Retirement Benefits Fund. And Kim, this is a new article. Your timing impeccable. Article 9, shall the Mont Vernon School District establish a post-employment retirement benefits expendable trust fund per RSA 198:20-C for the purpose of payment of retirement benefits currently accruing and to raise and appropriate the sum of up to $15,000 to be placed in this fund. Further, to name the Mount Vernon School Board as agents to expand from said fund. This sum to come from the June 30th, 2025 unassigned fund balance surplus available for transfer on July 1st, 2025. No amount to be raised from new taxation. A majority vote is required. Recommended by the Mount Vernon School Board 4-0. Recommended by the Mount Vernon Advisory Budget Committee 3-0. Estimated tax impact is 0 per thousand if it passes. Estimated new tax impact of not passing this article is -3 cents per thousand. So the Post-Employment Retirement Benefits Fund is a new warrant article and fund that we wanted to establish. Employees accrue post-employment benefits payable upon retirement. This creates potential for operating budget variability. The Expendable Trust Fund, the ETF, reduces that variability as a result of individual retirement decisions. The balance goal for this fund is $50,000. Retirement payouts, including associated benefits, vary in cost depending on the employee and their time of service. The recommended contribution request this year is $15,000, and the source again is the unassigned fund balance. And Kim will recognize you in a second. I want to speak to this one in that this is a timing issue. So when this budget is approved, we don't know if people are going to retire next year. And they have that ability to do that. There is a cap of 2 per year, 1 person or 2. But that event doesn't happen until after this budget is already established and voted on. So it puts the board and our school not at risk, but we have to kind of start searching for the couches and find the nickels and dimes in the seats to pay for these accrued benefits. It could be $15,000. It could be two people for a total of $83,000. We have no idea how that much money that's going to be until the individuals decide to retire. So it's kind of a timing issue for us from a budgetary standpoint. Again, the budget's already approved, it's in play, and then teachers come to us and say, we'd like to retire, and then we got to find the money. So that's the purpose behind this fund.
All right, do we have a motion to add Article 9 to the ballot? Second? Seconded? Open for discussion?
Kim Roberts, 35 Salisbury Road. So out of these 5 articles, my understanding is this, though, if in fact they do it, would be part of the default the year after because it's a contractual obligation. And that would be the same, if I'm accurate, on the one that we put into the special education. Those two, whether or not the town votes to put in those funds, the following year after, they would be part of the default budget because they're contractual obligation. You may not, yeah,
Now, these are unanticipated,
right.
so
But
we
if,
don't know.
right, but if somebody retires next year and you don't have enough in your unreserved fund balance in order to come up that money, we're contractually obligated. That is part of the default. So would it be if we had a special ed student come into our,
It has to be voted on by the body. It doesn't necessarily just mean a contract.
We have you speaking to Mike.
Contractually obligated mean it has to be voted on by the body. It doesn't necessarily just mean a contract.
but what I'm saying is both of those capital reserves, if the money was not in those, and the money was necessary, they become part of the default budget.
They were never voted on by the body.
Right, but they would be in the budget the following year. We're contractually obligated to them so that.
Never voted on in the original budget, so they're not.
So
They- Wouldn't have been voted in the original budget. If there's a transfer, that doesn't matter. So it'd have to be voted on by the body.
But the following year, Amy, it gets added to it because it was part of the budget from an expenditure standpoint.
No, it had to have been voted on by the body. It had
this
to
is,
have been included in the budget, in the voted budget.
so this
That
is when
wasn't
we,
included in the voted budget.
so if we learn about something after the budget's approved for the year, it's no longer it's not part of the default, it's an unanticipated expense.
No, I get that.
It's not part of the budget either.
But
It
I get
wasn't
that, Amy, but
voted
what I'm
on.
saying is, I think that.
We can
I-
ask
I
legal
think I'm-
counsel.
Do we have?
Yes, we have
yeah.
legal
Oh,
counsel.
Hi.
I'm sorry.
Is that, my. Okay. Okay.
Yes, please.
Lori Hayes, Fort Cranes Crossing. I think what Kim is saying is that all the benefits that are included in the collective bargaining agreement should always be a part of your budget so that it's a part of the default budget. So for benefits such as the retirement and the possibility that this person may be retiring and the cost would be $83,000 or whatever that total cost would be, some portion of that or the whole thing should be in your budget automatically is what she's trying to say. And of course, I think that because our budget is so small and the impact of adding $83,000 to it every year to just sit there and not do anything is scary. And it would add much more than just 9 cents or 16 cents. It would add a tremendous amount. But what Kim is saying is that that is how you usually fund a collective bargaining agreement is you put those costs, all of the possible costs in your budget. Is that what you're saying? It would be consistent if you did it.
Right. So we don't, and I don't know of any district that puts in possible accrual of retirements, those eligible for the next 5 years. Because that would be collecting all this money and giving it back if it's not. So what we're doing is we're putting money away if we get, now we have to fund it. As Lori said, if there's an obligation. But so when I did my year as interim superintendent, there was a little bit of kismet, a little bit of timing that a couple of things happened that we had to discuss with the board the possibility of freezing the budget to meet our obligations. And what we're trying to do is guarantee as much as we can the student experience that is voted on by the budget and putting in reserves for the unanticipated so we don't have to freeze the budget. So this is putting in reserve approximately one post-employment benefit. So if we get it, we have the money without necessarily freezing the cost to get it. But yes, Lord, we will absolutely fund our collective bargaining obligation. It's do we freeze the budget or do we put in reserves? And the same thing for the special ed. We have to make the special ed costs, but do we put it in reserves and unanticipated, or do we look to freeze the budget and fund it that way? This year, there was a district about an hour from here that had 2 youngsters move in, and they did not have the reserves, and they didn't even have the room in the budget, and they had to ask for a deficit appropriation through the department head, and that is something that Amy Facey would not, and Mike Berry would not enjoy that experience. So we're trying to be good stewards, and we're trying to put as much in reserve to stabilize the tax rate and stabilize the impact on the student experience by moderating some savings over time over fiscal. And this is trying to build some financial infrastructure to even it out and have some security if we get some unanticipated, whether it's unanticipated on healthcare, unanticipated special ed, unanticipated in a post-employment request. That's what we're trying to do.
And we are trying to do that. And this grew out of, as we look at the staff at the school and where they are at their careers, and we're predicting and anticipating that, we have 5 to 7 people who are in the next 3 to 5 could be retiring from this district. And if we're not preparing for that, they would cost us, to meet our, as Lori indicated, our obligations. It would require us to do it. But at the same time, we want to be as for us, fiscally responsible and good stewards of the taxpayer dollars to do that while we're anticipating the needs. And that's really where it grew out of. And so I do appreciate the conversation on it. But, if you had 2 people that decided they were going to retire, that would impact the daily experience at this school and what we could do tremendously. And so this is helping with this. So, and it's coming from a good place. And so thank you for the questions. Sir, thank you for letting me add that in. Thanks.
Oh, no problem. Assuming this passes.
Can you state your name
Oh,
first?
Tony Merlika, Purgatory Road. Assuming this passes, and I think it will, we will have tonight put up 5 articles in front of the voters. And it seems too good to be true, because if those 5 pass, it doesn't cost us a cent, right? The tax impact, according to this, is 0, the tax impact for next year. So it comes from the unassigned fund balance. What is this balance? How much is in there today? And assuming we don't spend it all, what happens to the stuff we don't assign through here?
Yeah, so the unassigned fund balance is funds of additional revenue that is unanticipated, as well as budget savings. So we don't know what that is going to be. It's for this current year. There is no balance that sits there. School districts operate under a use it or lose it operation, where the funds need to go back to the taxpayer if they are not spent. So the funds are, they're already budgeted. So they are budgeted for this year. And if they are not spent, or if there's additional revenue that wasn't anticipated, those are what those funds are.
It seems every year we have a surplus. Every single year. So we always have unassigned funds that we put in
So
a capital reserve. We put them away someplace in a capital reserve that builds up to hundreds of thousands of dollars. Why do we do that? Why don't we just lower the tax rate? And since we always have, it seems we always have historically an unassigned uh, fund balance. If we have a problem during the year, that money will be there because it's generated every year. Every year historically, we've had
Yes.
unassigned fund balance.
So most of these funds, as I said, they are designed to build up funds to be able to spend on large projects typically. So you can't, if you have a project that is larger than what you have left over, you can't do that project. So that's why the capital maintenance fund was designed to be able to save up for larger projects, to be able to complete those projects when you have enough funds available. These other funds are set up really for risk mitigation. It's possible that there's additional savings and revenue, but that might not always be the case. The Department of Revenue and our auditors recommend that there is some sort of buffer in savings so that you don't run into an issue of a deficit appropriation. The way we budget what we know, but there are some things that we can't predict. And, we're budgeting about a year and a half advance of the budget. The Mont Vernon budget is quite tight. Typically, the fund balance that is left, which is both additional revenue as well as budget savings, is 2 to 3, maybe 4% at the most of the budget.
What is the ramification if we have to go to deficit?
A deficit appropriation.
Appropriation, yeah. What's that
Have to come
process?
back to the taxpayers and ask for more funds because we don't have the funds to fund the budget during the year.
Okay, so there's no penalty for that other than we have to go back to the taxpayers and have another meeting and ask to get more money, right?
I've never been through that. I don't know if you have any more.
I mean,
information.
what's wrong with a deficit appropriation? The federal government's trillions into that right now.
That's a way to operate in a fiscally responsible way to not have the funds to fund your obligations.
Okay. I understand then that some of these are for risk mitigation, just in case. But I do commend the article that has to do with maintenance, because what I saw on that was a plan of what's going to happen in the next 4 or 5 years with budget items and real costs. And I saw the same thing in the technology one. So I commend those who put those plans together, can really see value in putting the money aside so we can do those things in future years. But for risk mitigation, I'm just not so sure. Thank you.
Jay Goodell, 6 Westgate Road. It's been a hot item this year. I just wanted to offer the counterpoint to that, which is that I think this is responsible. I think the projection for unassigned fund balance this year is around 200 grand. It's about 3% of the budget. I think you did a pretty good job. If there's a little bit of money not spent at the end of the year, that makes perfect sense. You cannot spend more than what's been appropriated in the budget. I do not want a year where the school has to stop spending money mid-year because we cut it too close. 3% seems like an appropriate amount of margin for the budget for the year. Thank you.
Howard Brown, 2 Blood Road. Thanks, Tony and Jay, for the segue into what I'm going to say. We have about 120,000 that's going to be offered for warrant articles. Last night at the Sahegan, we have about 460,000 through the articles. And somebody asked me after the meeting, what happens if you spend all that before you get to the end of the last article? So that's something that we should always explain, that we have, 9 articles here, that 120,000. If we use it all up in the first 2 articles, there's not enough money for the rest of them. We should explain that so that people know that's what happens.
Yep. So the board spends time deciding the order of the articles, and that's very important because that's the order in which the articles are funded, and they're funded up to a certain amount. So if there are funds left over for, say, they can fund the first 2 and the third, there's some left, they could fund up to what is written in the warrant article for that. Thanks for the opportunity to say that, Howard. Appreciate it.
All right, all in favor of adding Article 9 to the ballot? All right, the motion passes. Is there a motion to restrict reconsideration? A second? Thank you. All those in favor of restricting consideration? Motion passes.
And if I could comment real quick on that, because I saw Eileen shaking her head when it says zero tax impact. Everybody knows nothing is free, okay? That unassigned fund balance, if we funded none of the warrant articles, all of that would go back to offset the tax rate. That would save all of us on our tax bill. So there is expense built in there, but it's a gradual expense that we, as a board and a budget committee, SAU, and it's been stated, a slow and easy gradual buildup of funding to tackle these projects and or unanticipated life events that we need to deal with is I think, good, sound financial business for the district and the school.
And I recognize Eric Willis.
For Article 9, the Mont Vernon School Budget Committee voted 3 in favor and 0 opposed. Thank you.
Thank you. And I recognize Peter Eckhoff, Chair, for summary and next steps.
Thank you. Again, a quick summary of the warrant articles, the election of officers, which will happen on the 11th, the operating budget and the default calculation. Number 3 is the collective bargaining agreement at $104,984. The special meeting, if the collective bargaining agreement is defeated, there's no financial impact to that, although there is expense, as was discussed. Property maintenance fund, 50,000, special education fund, 25, health and dental insurance fund, 10,000, technology fund, 10,000, and post-employment benefits retirement fund, 15,000. Our next step tonight, deliberative session, and then district voting on the 11th of March.
And I'd like to add, on March 5th, we are hosting a little presentation, a listening session in partnership with the library in town from 6:30 to 7:30. Could be longer, depending on the conversation. And I'd encourage you to come, and you want to learn about the direction of our school district and our SAU, and ask some questions of the superintendent. And then on March 8th, we have school board members that are hosting an event on Saturday in the morning. I think it's 8:30 to 10:30. No, what time? Oh, that's Sleepy Town. 10:30 to 12:30. All right. So if you want to learn a little bit more about things, those are some opportunities as well. I appreciate your time, everybody. This is a very good showing, on top of a very good showing for public hearing. So thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
And I'd like to thank everyone for your grace in my role as moderator tonight. I very much appreciate all of your help. Yes, do we
Right.
have
Other business?
other business? Do we have any other business?
I do. I believe we have someone on the school board. This is her last meeting tonight, her last public meeting. And I want to personally, and I think we should all acknowledge Jessica Hinckley for the work she's done on this board. Thank you, Jessica.
Wonderful, thank you. Do I have one more item?
One more thing. I have a message from the town selectmen. So the public hearing on the 2025 operating budget was rescheduled from tomorrow night till Monday night at 7 p.m.
All right, thank you. Do we have a motion to adjourn the meeting? Second? All right, motion, all those in favor of adjourning or passes? Thank you. The meeting is adjourned.